Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind. Let's watch.
If we get married, like that's it. Like I'm not, it's like I want you. Like I don't want to like sit here and like go through this again with anyone else. I just want to make sure it's 100, you know? Like it's that there's no like, especially something as big as like physical intimacy. Like I just want to make sure that that's right, you know?
Yeah, the way that they conflict is, it could be better. It has a lot of strengths, you know, they tend to talk fairly calmly and without criticism. But in these kind of conversations, there's something that's missing that he could do right now where he could say, I totally understand where you're coming from. And if you're sick and you're tired and you're busy, I by no means do I want, you know, he said something along that, but he could really, I think, more emphasize that and maybe give a little bit more context, you know, like it's not about an orgasm or something for me. It's more about, you know, this or that or intimacy or how we are together just in terms of physical vibe, you know. So if we just cuddled or I don't know. I think he could give a little bit more detail that might help, I'm guessing.
And it's not right.
Starting at Cabo, it was great, and then like now, obviously we're dealing with a lot, and so like sometimes you just like don't want to be touched or you don't want to be, which is again fine. I just want to make sure that long term that it doesn't look like this.
Okay, so we're hearing there are times, multiple times, where she doesn't want to be touched, which is totally fine, as he stated, and there's a possibility that for him, it's not about having sex now. It's about, is this a sign of things to come? Are we always going to be a sex desert, if you will, you know, whatever, however he defines it. And this is why typically you don't get married in a month. This is one of those benefits to being engaged for a few years before you get married.
I feel like I've been very affectionate with you. There's been like just maybe 3 times where I'm like, lay off on petting me or whatever. Like, I call it petting because that's what it feels like at times. Like it's just overstimulating. Like
and I get it, and like that's fine. Like but
it's not fine because you're saying it's not fine.
Yeah. Okay. So she's doing good. She's saying it's really only been a few times, and then he's like, yeah, it's fine. And then she says, but it's not fine, because that is what he's saying. He's saying this could be a deal breaker. He is saying that. At the very least, it could mean that he would say maybe at the altar, you know, meaning no for now, maybe yes later. So she's receiving that well and communicating that well. And he's not really being clear.
I'm saying not fine. I'm just saying it's like long term, you know, like if that would be an issue for me.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I do.
Again,
and I feel like I've been affectionate with you, so it's like...
Yeah, no, you have been affectionate with me. Like, I'm not saying you haven't. Like, when I do give affection and then, like, there's, like, a no or, like...
Do you feel rejected when I do that?
Maybe, I mean, yeah, maybe a...
Great. That was... I almost never see that on reality TV. To actually name it. Rejection. That is, of course, what it's... I get so used to that not being a topic of conversation that I sometimes I don't even bring it up. But almost all the time, when there is a problem between people on reality TV or otherwise, it's because of rejection or worries of rejection. You know, I will often put forward the theory that at baseline, particularly in relationships and attachment, the emotions are fear and hurt, right? And hurt often related to being rejected, and anxiety about potentially being rejected. It's all about being alone and rejected and not good enough and alone. We are, in all likelihood, we have evolved to have a drive, a need, in the same way that we need food and water and sleep. We need attachment. We need to have relationships that are dependable and close and constant and around all the time, you know? So when we sense rejection, we worry and we're hurt. So for her to just put that into the conversation, it's like, okay, so are we really talking about you feeling rejected? Because once you can name it that, then you can actually deal with the problem, right? And it also sets it up so that in the future, instead of him saying things like, well, I don't know, we're getting married soon, so I just don't really know if this is going to work out. He could instead say, ouch, that hurt, it felt rejecting. And then if he because, if he did, and I don't know if that's even the case, but if he named that, then she could say, okay, let me make sure that you don't feel rejected by me. I don't want to have sex right now, or I don't want you to caress me in that way right now, but I do not reject you. I'm not rejecting you. Once you can name it, then you can deal with it, right? And double thumbs up to him for saying yes. I can't tell you how many times in my office that I will ask a couple or a client, sounds like maybe you were hurt, or you were worried about rejection, or you were a little scared about maybe being rejected. 99% of the time in the initial phases of therapy, people say, no, I was just irritated, or no, it was just bothersome to me. And I can never know, but I will later learn that from those individuals, they were indeed hurt and or worried about rejection. We have been so shamed for those feelings in our society and in our families often that we deny them. And when we deny ourselves and our realities, we have no way of actually meeting our needs. When we feel worried or we feel hurt, that's a need that is trying to get noticed. And if we ourselves can't even, it's like if you're thirsty and you don't know that you're thirsty and you never drink water, then suffering will occur. And the same happens when we don't recognize our pain and our worries about attachments. So the fact that he could immediately agree is that, well, yeah, I guess I did feel rejected, is such a good sign, whether they get married or not. For the two of them to be able to have this conversation it's such a strength. Let's rewind it and celebrate it.
I do.
Again,
and I feel like I've been affectionate with you, so it's like...
Yeah, no, you have been affectionate with me. Like, I'm not saying you haven't. Like, when I do give affection and then, like, there's, like, a no, or, like...
Do you feel rejected when I do that?
Maybe, maybe a little. But again, like, I want to be respectful of you and, like, where you're at. Like, if that's not something that you want.
And then he qualifies it, which is good. I think he's saying, I'm not saying you can't reject me. It's okay that you reject me. But then she rolled her eyes. And the way she asked the question, I guess I was assuming that it was on the positive side. Maybe it was on the negative side. Maybe she's like, do you feel rejected by me? Meaning, are you kidding me right now? I was assuming she was asking out of love. But when he said yes, at least in the edit, she rolled her eyes. So I don't know what's going on.
Or like, I don't want to come off as if I'm just trying to have sex. Like, I love you, I care about you, and like, I want you. But I'm just like, it's a big decision.
Okay.
Yeah. I wonder if other couples on this show benefit because they just don't even really get into these conversations, and I think they might avoid them. They are getting into things that I think a lot of other couples would just skirt around, which sometimes is the recommended course of action. We don't have to address every single bothering thing that our partners exhibit. I'm prone to think that what they're doing is healthy because I'm a therapist and I like it when people talk about things openly and in a vulnerable way, which they do. But then I wonder if they would benefit by trying to just let things be without having to address every little thing, Because like that political conversation that they had about the military, other couples just wouldn't have even gotten into it. They just would have avoided or placated or changed the subject or something. They really basked in that conversation and really explored things a lot. I think that's a huge strength, but it could lead to them having some of these impasses. I think I understand where both of them are coming from. I think for her, she's just like, I'm not unaffectionate and sometimes I'm just not in the mood. Is that okay with you? and I'm sick and I'm PMS and I've been commuting to Baltimore. Like, are you kidding me right now? And then from his perspective, I think it would have potentially been healthier if he just would have stuck to that statement, even just right then, where he just would say, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess I'm just feeling rejected, and you don't have to not reject me. You're free to reject me, but I guess that's all that's happening for me, is that I'm feeling rejected, and I guess in my head I'm going into the future, but that doesn't make a lot of sense. And maybe I'm just taking it a little too personally. I think he might have benefited given the scenario and given what is happening. I mean, I guess I understand his point of like, well, everything that happens in these weeks is amplified because we have this. Now I'm wondering if he is on the fence of a no because and he's looking, he's trying to read the tea leaves, and he's like, well, if this happened, because if he was a firm yes and this happened, I don't think he would be saying these kinds of statements like, well, if this is what's going to happen in the future, then I don't know if getting married is the right thing to do. I think if he was a firm yes, he wouldn't be saying that. If he was close, if he's on the fence, then he might be being honest of just like, when things like this happen and I'm already a little hesitating, then it makes me wonder if this is a good move to get married in 2 weeks, which, like I said, under normal circumstances, you just wouldn't rush things, and you'd be able, there's a possibility that say they don't get married and they stay engaged for another couple of years. Whatever issue is happening right now will just iron itself out. He'll learn that, oh yeah, I mean, sometimes she's just not into it. And once stress was lowered and we're living together and we're both working in the same town, that, everything works out. My libido is bigger than hers, but it's not the way I was paranoid about it being, because it makes me wonder if he's paranoid that like she's never going to want to have sex in the future. The way that he's framing it, it's like, in Cabo, everything was great. And then we left Cabo and now things are a lot less. And so I wonder if he's thinking it's a downward trend until zero in another month. Like, is that what he's thinking? And, I don't know.
Can I I'm sorry. I know, like, if you, like, I don't know.
It's building up, no stopping.
That's good too, that he is mature enough and wise enough to, in his mind, emotionally turn it around and even be vulnerable and ask for a hug, and that she, without hesitation, yes, and then full embrace, this could erase everything. In fact, sometimes I wonder if his verbal ability actually shoots himself in the foot because he maybe intellectualizes things a fair amount, which can be a good thing, but might actually, be a thorn in her side at times. I don't know.
And I feel it.
I still want to marry you. Like, I want you. I just want to be like clear,
Did you know, like, men always, like, there's like a high percentage of men when their wives get cancer, they cheat on them?
Your health becomes an issue that I'm gonna like want to go elsewhere.
Yeah, like that's gonna be an issue for you. And not even that extreme, like postpartum when you have kids, like.
So it's good. She's bringing up a good point. I think this was in the air, and she is right to bring it up, and he's, I think, responding well to it. There's a lot of responses we could get from him right now. What are you talking about? But he's not. He's like, yeah.
There's periods before you have the kid, like you're not want to be affectionate. Maybe after you have a kid, like this is probably going to come up multiple times in our relationship. Is this going to be an issue for you?
That's a fair question. Yeah.
Like that's
a big thing. Yeah.
All right.
I don't know if that was edited, but that wasn't a very encouraging response, I think, in her mind and maybe in mine. She's asking a pretty extreme question, and what I think she was hoping for, which I think a lot of people would hope for, is that he would say, nothing will cause me to not love you and want to be with you. I don't mind if I'm sexually frustrated. That is much lower on the priority list than my love for you and our relationship. Instead, he's saying, yeah, something to think about. And kind of saying, maybe I would leave you if you had cancer and you couldn't have sex anymore, you know. And then she's like, oh, okay, well, back to my breakfast. Yeah. Or he's miscommunicating, or they edited it funny. I don't know. I guess I would have thought that Ramses would come out ahead in terms of communicating about this, but I don't know. Is he just like a quiet jerk face? Because he doesn't yell or anything. So it could throw one off. It could throw B off. So if I just look at what he's communicating, I don't know. I guess time will tell.
Like, I'm not like on the ledge right now, like ready to like jump ship, you know? Like, I'm still like, I want to marry you. Like, I still want to be with you. Like, I still imagine my future with you, you know? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there's nothing left to say.
Yeah, I mean, of the conversations that I have witnessed or heard about in my office, this, you know, on the scale of things is going pretty well. Everything's just amplified by the fact that the wedding is in a couple weeks, because if the wedding wasn't in a couple weeks, then she could say, well, you know, I don't know exactly what he means by this. It kind of sounds like he's saying that if we don't have sex more, he's going to leave me. But he's not saying he wants to leave now. Clearly that's not happening. So, you know, I guess we'll just see what happens with that one. And he could say the same thing. The fact that they're getting married in a couple weeks, they both have to think like, is this a sign of something? You know, is this a problem that is going to get worse in the future? And therefore, I am very scared and I'm very concerned about this. I think it might cause a problem there. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.